Hi, everyone. Hope y'all are doing well and having a great day. I wanted to take just a few minutes, I'm not going to take too terribly long, to kind of walk you through what one of the AP rubrics looks like, specifically for the literature and composition exam. So one of the things that had been asked was, is there a way for us to get some purposeful prep as we look ahead to writing our first FRQ? Because, keep in mind for the exam, you will write a series of essays. It won't just be one. And there are, depending on the kind of piece you're being asked to respond to, there are different rubrics that you will be assessed by. And this is one of the ones that you'll be assessed by. And it's actually the one I'm going to use as I grade your yellow wallpaper FRQ that you will do tomorrow. So a couple of things that I want to kind of point out to you. First of all, here's the rubric. This is exactly what it looks like. There are no surprises. This is exactly what you can expect when you think about the rubric, one of the AP rubrics for the exam. Pretty standard, pretty clear, to the point. I will go through some of the finer points within it, but you will notice that the total number of points possible is going to equal 6. You can get a total of 1 here, 4 here, and 1 here to equal 6 points. In fact, when I put in your grade in the grade book, it will be put in as anywhere from a 0 to a 6. So to kind of get started, the first criterion here in row A is going to be thesis. Ultimately, anytime you write an essay, particularly if it is analytically driven, and again, this is the rubric for prose fiction analysis, or like short fiction analysis, anything that's not poetry, essentially. You are going to need to have some kind of clear-cut thesis statement. Again, because it'll be in an exam setting, it needs to be a relatively short. Thesis statement. One sentence should suffice. Particularly one sentence is going to make the most sense, right? Because you're doing this in a time setting and you're not going to have as much time to sit and ruminate and kind of let that idea just kind of form over the period of quite a few minutes. You're going to need to try to be able to decide relatively quickly once you've read through the selection and kind of know what the assignment's going to be. So, of course, the distinction here is 0 points, 1 point. 0 points, of course, means you don't have a thesis statement. You simply restate the prompt only. The thesis doesn't address the prompt, or there's a summary of the passage with no connection to the prompt. So basically, you have to really try hard to not get the point here. Of course, the point for the thesis statement can be achieved by having a defensible interpretation of the passage, and you respond to the prompt. So those two things, if you do those two things, you're good. And I'll be honest with you, in my experience, most people can get this point. It's not a horrible, hard point to get. And you will notice down here in this asterisk, it's a little small. The thesis may be more than one sentence and may appear anywhere in the essay. So you do have the ability for the exam to have more than one sentence. I'm going to always encourage you to just give me the one, but if you do happen to go over more than one, depending on who your grader is, it's not going to be your make or break, okay? So that's going to be that first point. Again, this one's usually pretty easy to achieve. The next criterion in row B is going to be evidence and commentary. So you'll notice this one goes on a graduated scale from 0 to 4. There are different things you'll want to keep in mind, of course. They have the evidence, which again goes from generalized evidence, some specific evidence or relevant evidence, sufficient and relevant evidence supports all claims, or then you have specific and relevant evidence. And again, that goes from the 1 to 4. And then for commentary, it gets a little bit more into the nitty-gritty. Essentially, what it comes down to is you need to make sure that you have very clear evidence to back up the points that you're making, and you need to make sure that the evidence that you have ties back into the larger thesis statement or the larger argument you're making. So again, the things that I'm talking about are not things that are unknown to you when it comes to academic writing and the kind of writing we've even talked about and you've done prior to now. The difference is this rubric kind of has you thinking about it in a slightly different way because it's clearly telling you here's kind of in the language what they're specifically looking for and what may distinguish between a 1 and a 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, okay? So again, I won't go through and read all of this. You all will get a copy of this rubric here once you finish watching this video. So just make sure that you take some time to take a look at the language within here and kind of see how, of course, that changes. Again, you've got to try real hard to get 0 points here. Most people, I'll be honest with you, tend to get between a 2 and a 3, okay? And then the last criterion, this is in row C, is going to be sophistication. I'll be honest with you, this is the part that is one of the hardest. This is the hardest point to get. Not because it's just inherently hard, but because to me, this is where you distinguish a good paper from a great paper. Okay? So in sophistication, a couple of things you're going to be looking for. It's basically a does not meet or meets. If it for 0 points does not meet the criteria in any of the following reasons. You have sweeping generalizations, ineffective use of language, oversimplifies the passage's complexities, thematic interpretation not consistently developed, alternative interpretations missing or only hinted at. And within this, as you're thinking about ineffective use of language, that does include grammar. So that is why, as much as it may seem like I harp on, make sure you proofread, make sure you edit. It does matter. Now, if you have some errors, especially in a time setting, it's not the end of the world. And again, you'll see it's at the very bottom here. It's not the biggest, but not the bulk of the points. However, you do want to make sure that you take time to look back through your work and make sure it's as clean as it can possibly be, in addition to not having generalizations, making sure that you develop your points, develop the interpretations, so on and so forth. To get the point, you need to demonstrate sophisticated thinking, develop a complex argument, explore complexities and tensions in the passage, place interpretations in a larger context, employ a vivid and persuasive writing style, and engage in multiple interpretations of the passage, which doing some of these things in a short-ish response or a short essay is tough to do. It's actually one of the reasons why it is a sophistication point. Okay? Now, it can be achieved. It can be awarded. It's just tough to do. Okay? I have done it. I have given it, but it is one that I don't just hand out like candy. You got to work for it. Again, this takes the paper from good to great. Okay? So this is what the rubric looks like. Now, for your tasks today. You all have a copy of the rubric in front of you. You should already be in groups of 4 to 5. Again, keep those numbers, please. And I want you to take some time, especially with the FRQ that you'll do tomorrow in class. I want you to take some time to really strategize within your group about what are some very clear-cut, clear things you can do to help you achieve this 1 point here, to help get you higher on the scale here, maybe a 3 or 4, and then really what can help get you here. And by specific strategies, what are some things that you all as writers do to help you achieve X, sophisticated thinking? What do you do to help you make sure that you have a really good interpretation? What do you do to help you make sure that you have really good evidence? And come up with a list, a pretty comprehensive list as a group. You'll write this down in short form, and this will be what you hand into the sub today for your credit. Okay. Again, this is a small formative grade. I do want you to take advantage of this time. Study the rubric, look over it, let it kind of ruminate a little bit, and then spend some time coming up with strategies. I'm not looking for a set number, but because you are AP students and your seniors in particular, I do want it to be a pretty healthy list, okay? Use a good chunk of the class period to get this work done, okay? If y'all have any questions or concerns, please shoot me an email. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow when you take this FRQ. Take care, folks.